we started talking about guns. What the fuck did we do for an hour?
Hello everyone and welcome to Anime Club After Dark's movie reviews, a spoiler-free discussion detailing the good, the bad, and the downright ridiculous of anime movies. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and tonight I am joined by our czar of source material, John.
I had a bit queued up, and then I completely forgot what it was going to be.
It's probably because for the last hour or so, you and I have been talking about what we're going to be doing tonight and not actually recording it.
Well, because we had to get all the spoilers out, right? That was the reason. Because, man, why did you choose Ghost in the Shell, first of all? You were the one who chose this movie, right?
I did choose this movie, and that is what you and I are going to be doing. We are going to be doing a spoiler-free review of the 1995 movie Ghost in the Shell, which spawned an entire anime franchise. The reason I chose this was because, one, it's an anime movie that's near and dear to my heart. It's an anime movie that I have always said is one of anime's 5 true masterpieces. And two, it's been a decade since the last time I saw it. So I really just wanted an excuse to rewatch it. So I thought this is a great excuse.
I mean, any excuse to always watch the Major, right?
That's right. Any excuse to watch Major Kusanagi.
Motoko Kusanagi. Or no, Motoko Kusanagi.
Kusanagi. But yeah, that's
always
why I
get that fucking wrong. I know it's Motoko, but for some reason I'm always like Motoko. It's not. It's not Motoko. It's not Motoko. It's Motoko. Kusanagi.
Motoko Kusanagi. But you're not the only one. A lot of people get it wrong.
Yeah. Just call her the Major.
Yeah, I mean, everyone else does. Even the characters in the show just call her the Major.
Just don't call her a gorilla.
No.
Inside jokes.
Yeah. Good lord. But let's actually get into it. So as our movie reviews always start with, I'll do a little bit of introductory stuff. So this movie was directed by Mamoru Oshii, who also directed the last thing we reviewed on our movie reviews, that being Angel's Egg. The script for this film was written by Kazunori Ito, and the anime film itself is based on a manga by Masamune Shirow. Very legendary manga, as a matter of fact, which you should definitely read if you ever get a chance to. The film itself was produced by Production IG. Yes, the very same. And actually, all the anime versions of Ghost in the Shell, I think they have done all of them at this point. I could be. They may have been someone else behind the second Ghost in the Shell movie, but if I remember right, I think it was also Production IG.
I don't know. I didn't know it was Production IG in the first place, so there goes because see, that's the problem with Production IG, right? They don't have a unique art style. They're a huge production company.
They are a huge production company, and no, there's nothing really unique that defines. I would say if there's anything now that defines them, it's their copious use of CG.
I mean, yes, but
I wouldn't say that there's anything over the course of their existence that's really defined them in the same way something like Trigger's art style really defines them.
When you see Trigger stuff, you're like, oh yeah, that's Trigger, for the most part. Mm-hmm. There was one outlier with the Elder in Star Wars Visions. Yeah, but you see a Madhouse, you're like, oh, look at those crisp animation lines. That's definitely Madhouse or something. Yeah. Or look at KyoAni. It's fucking all beautified and everything looks super pretty. Oh, that's KyoAni. Everyone knows that's KyoAni.
Yeah. Look at these spaghetti limbs. Everyone knows that's Clamp.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So the film itself had its very first world premiere at the Tokyo International Film Festival in October of 1995. I was but a babby of 5 years old when this movie came out.
I forget how close we are in age because I always call you an old man. I'm literally just 2 years younger than you.
That's true, you are. And then it had its general release to the public in Japan the following month. The film's Western premiere happened in the United Kingdom on November 11th, 1995, as a part of the London Film Festival. Now, here comes the sad part. As much as we think of Ghost in the Shell being a legendary production today, and it 100% is. It was made on a budget of just 330 million yen. That is around $3 million in 1995 money, so that's not adjusted for inflation. And its original worldwide box office receipts only totaled 2.3 million dollars. Again, not adjusted for inflation. So theatrically, this movie was a flop.
That doesn't surprise me, though.
It doesn't, but at the same time, we think about it now and the legacy that it's had, and it's like, wow, like, this didn't even make its money back.
So, you gotta understand, like, in the 90s, right, there was a lot of Disney cartoons, and the only thing animated that you'd be seeing in theaters is made for kids, right? You got Toy Story, you've got Lion King, all those, just basically Disney cartoons. Anything animated-wise, like, it's supposed to be for kids. So when you get a show that's like, or you get a movie that's like Ghost in the Shell, which has like fucking gore, violence, and fucking titties flopping about, of course, your main demographic for animation is not adults at this point. It's just a small cult following. Like, I have no doubt today that if Ghost in the Shell never existed and then was made today, it would make a shit ton of money.
It would. And it's also worth mentioning that, obviously it had a pretty wide release in Japan, and I can't really speak to places outside the United States, but I know in the U.S., its theatrical release was not very widely distributed. Like, it wasn't in every single theater. So, I mean, that may play some part in it, but like you say, I mean, you think about mid-90s.
Who would make a bid for that contract, dude? Like I said, who in their right mind would look at this anime and be like, you know what, the American people will love that? Like, no, they wouldn't.
Yeah, well, again, you think of the time, the mid-90s, yeah, I mean, anything animated in theaters was pretty much just Disney, or at least stuff that was aimed squarely at children. To put a good spin on this, however, between the years of 1996 and 2020, the film has since gone on to make roughly $43 million worldwide from both home video and theatrical re-releases. So in the intervening years, it has gone on to make its money back and more because of the cult following it did have, and because more and more people have been showing it at places like, their anime clubs, or like the theatrical re-releases that have come out. This year, in 2021, the film was also given a full 4K IMAX restoration and re-release, and much like the Akira 4K re-release, it was like a properly done 4K remaster, in the sense that they actually had the original film reels when they went to do this remaster, so it looks phenomenal in 4K. It's not just a simple upscale like some 4K remasters are. The theatrical run for this release grossed an additional roughly $1 million worldwide. So, I mean, if you want to put a good spin on the fact that it didn't make money when it was in its original theatrical release, it's gone on to make its money back and then a lot more. So, and then the total runtime for this movie is 82 minutes, which I know a lot of people are surprised by that, myself included, because I always get to the end of Ghost in the Shell and I think, God, the amount of story that they had is just, it seems like there was way more, and it should have been a lot longer movie.
See, here's the thing though. Like, we'll talk about it more in the pacing, but the very beginning of Ghost in the Shell seems very slow. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it ends, right? You're like, wait, what happened? Oh, whoa, fuck.
Yeah. But let's actually talk about some of the art, animation, and cinematography. You and I were talking about this beforehand. It still looks good today. Like, just phenomenal.
Yeah, see, so we're talking about how Ghost in the Shell is very unique in the fact that not only is it mostly hand-drawn, like, we're talking 99% of it. There's quite literally only 2 sequences that I can think of that is CG. Mm-hmm. Right? But it doesn't adapt a art style of the 90s. And subsequently, in its anime series from 2004 and onward, it doesn't adapt a 2000s art style. It's always been uniquely itself, which is really good because it makes it look a lot better looking back.
Yeah, it does. Like you say, very sparingly used CG. Like, there's a few in between shots that are CG, and one thing that does stand out is the cloaking effects that they use for their optic camouflage. That's also CG, but again, not used very often in the movie. I mean, it's probably used most prominently in its opening sequence. But I think they blended it in really well considering the technology that they had at the time for CG. Like, it blends so well and so seamlessly. You'd think this CG was done recently.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look bad because of how little they used it, right? Like, there's only, again, 2 times when I recognized CG. I was like, oh, yeah, that's CG, all right.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, man. The Major's cloaking device thing, or cloaking effect, it made me think of, like, the T-1000. Like, is it the T-1000s? The ones that can go through bars and stuff, the liquid metal ones?
I think that's actually what if I remember right. It's been so long since I've seen Terminator.
All right, next movie we're watching for anime.
Yeah, next movie we're watching is Terminator, even though it's not an anime.
It is in my mind. God, can you imagine that Terminator 2 as an anime? I'd fucking watch it.
I'd watch that shit.
I'd fucking hate it, but I'd watch it.
It's also worth mentioning the background art in this, much like the art in the entire movie, is beautiful, and there's a lot of long tracking shots that show off this background art as you watch it, particularly the cityscapes that you see throughout the run of the movie. Like, there's a lot of intricate detail in these scenes, even for far away things that today, I think if they tried to do this, even if they tried to hand draw it today, a lot of animators would cheat and just make like just indistinguishable shapes at the far distant stuff. But if you look at this background art, like, it's even at the far away stuff is still pretty detailed.
Now, I don't know if I'm right. I might be remembering this wrong. I probably am. But I remember there was an interview with someone, I'm pretty sure it was Masamune Shirow, the creator of the manga, where he got inspiration for the background art and stuff, like in the cities. He got that inspiration from his hometown or something, right? He was like walking around Japan and was just like imagining it in a used future. And that's what makes it kind of really cool, and that's kind of like why he's fixated on those type of details, because it's like it's all these small atmospheric things that you don't notice that just add so much value to it, right? Because honestly speaking, given we've already made a Get Sack 2045 spoiler cast.
Yeah, we did a spoiler cast for it back in earlier this year, I think.
Yeah, so talk about bad adaptations. Like, they've went completely 180 from what it used to be, right? Where it's like they cared about the background so much that everything is like fixed, right? And it looks all hand drawn. There's so much detail, and then you get Sack 2045, and it's like blob.
It's fully CG.
Fully CG blob. Ugh.
Yeah, it's come full circle. Yeah, I've heard what you talked about with Masamune Shirow, the where he went with the art design, and I've heard that too. I don't know if it's true or not, because I don't remember a source, but I remember reading that too, but it makes sense, because like obviously Ghost in the Shell is science fiction, right? Mm-hmm. And something that we get in science fiction a lot is this look of things that, like, they always look brand new. Whether you're looking at a city or a car or anything, so much in science fiction always looks brand new and not run down. Like but when Star Wars came in, like, it introduced that whole used future concept, you know, as iconic as Star Wars is, there's so few science fiction properties that have gone on to use that kind of art design or set design. And, like, I really appreciate it when it shows up in, you know, movies like Ghost in the Shell, because it seems way more grounded and real, right? Especially when you consider the setting that it takes place in. Like, that's something else. I watch this and I'm like, I completely forgot that this takes place in 2029. Like, we're not that far off from where this is supposed to be taking place. I'm sure in 1995, 2029 seemed like a way far off place. But I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Well, that makes me think of we were talking about DeLoreans before we started recording. So that makes me think of why do I keep wanting to call it A Tear in the Past? Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. I mean, if I had to retitle it, that's probably what I'd retitle it.
A Tear in the Past. Oh, God. Don't let me title things. But, yeah, so in Back to the Future, didn't that already pass? Like, the year that...
Yeah, so Back to the Future Part 2, or at least the first half of Back to the Future Part 2, takes place in 2015. October 21st, 2015.
Like... People had grand ambitions, man, for the 2000s.
They did.
Not gonna lie.
They really did.
I feel like we've actually technology we've grown pretty well. I'd say there's a lot of crazy magic stuff that happens.
People talk about that, and I will say one thing I give Ghost in the Shell a lot of credit for. Like, Ghost in the Shell was made, well, the original manga was made when the internet wasn't even really around, but the movie really, I'd say of all the stuff made back then or even earlier, it's one of the things that got the idea of the internet probably most right as to what it's become. Like, an actual way for people, like average, ordinary people, to share information over, a network. So many things from that time imagine that the internet would become like this actual magical place. Like, no, it's just a place where people, share stuff and talk and do whatever. Like, Ghost in the Shell got that right, I think. I mean, how they access this information is still yet to come, but...
Well, also, like, they got like the hacking aspect of it on par too. Like the fact that we rely on the network, the social networks, and just the internet in general for so much stuff, that acts of cyber terrorism is kind of a running theme, right, in Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, I mean, throughout not just this movie, like all of its predecessors would go on to have a lot of similar themes about how cyber terrorism is going to be one of the principal threats of the future.
And also, like, the amount of sheer information on the net and how much people, like, put out there, it's insane. Like, that's one of the main pillars of why the story even exists, right? The first movie.
Yeah.
It's about all the information that we have online and all the secrets and stuff that people post online.
Well, hell, like, one of its sequels, which is Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, which is a anime series that came out in the mid-2000s. One of the running themes of that show, and it's even said pretty much out loud by the Major at that point, is just how willing people are to share intimate details of themselves online. It's like, wow, how prophetic can you be? That was before social media was even around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, we still had chans and stuff like.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything like it is today.
Well, we had BBS boards and stuff, so I guess it's like.
Yeah, it definitely predated all that though, and it's like, wow, how prophetic. Like, moving on to like sound and OST and stuff. So the music in this is done by Kenji Kawai. Some of his other notable works that some of you out there may have heard his music in are anime like Eden of the East, Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works. He also did work on the music for the original Fate Stay Night, but no one talks about that anymore.
Yeah, we don't talk about that, Dean.
Yeah, he's also worked on the music for anime like Barakamon and Mob Psycho 100, which I'm told is an anime that a lot of the kids like these days.
It's pretty popular. I never watched season 2, but I watched season 1 and I didn't hate it, so.
So the OST itself, and correct me if you think I'm wrong about this, is a really good mix, I think, of like traditionalist and futuristic sounds. Because you got things like chanting in there, but then you also got some synthesizer in there.
Yeah, it's a weird... Listen, Kenji Kawai makes this really weird fucking, like, operatic, I kind of guess. Like, not really operatic, but, I don't know, there's chanting, there's, like, yeah, like, traditional Enka or no music? I think I'm thinking of no. I don't know, my Japanese references are all over the place right now. But it's so weird listening to it. Because I watched Standalone Complex before I even watched the Ghost in the Shell movie, because I saw Standalone Complex on Toonami when I was a kid, right? That was like one of the things I stayed up watching.
Yeah,
like
I remember that too. Like when they originally showed that on Toonami, like I was blown the fuck away.
Yeah, so my first exposure to Ghost in the Shell was through the anime, and I watched the movies later, and it's so weird, right, to have that type of music because it seems so jarring. And there's 2 sequences throughout the movie where it's just music playing over, like, a montage, I guess. It's like a yada yada time pass type thing. It does it twice in the movie.
Yeah.
And I remember just listening to the soundtrack, and it's so good. It's very fitting, because I don't know what the fuck they're saying. I know they're singing in Japanese, but they're, like, chanting and stuff. And I don't know entirely what they're saying. I believe you looked it up, right? And it's
so one of the the one of the things you're talking about is it's also in the opening theme of the movie as well. The piece is called "Making of a Cyborg," and it uses elements of a Bulgarian harmony with Japanese choral notes.
It sounds fucking sick.
Yeah, and apparently I didn't know this, but it actually is the choral elements themselves are taken from a wedding song that is used to dispel evil spirits. So take that for what it is. I also found out that Kenji Kawai really, really, really wanted to get some Bulgarian folk singers to come to Japan and record the actual the chanting that was used in there. But because the budget didn't allow for it, he actually did use Japanese folk singers instead. So I do wonder what it would have sounded like, because he really wanted Bulgarian music in this movie so bad. I wonder what it would have sounded like if he'd actually gotten his wish.
Probably weird. Probably the same, actually. I don't know.
Maybe. I also didn't know this. So if you watch the film's original English version, apparently it has a different ending credit theme than it had in Japan. So the English version, the original English version at least, the ending credit theme is 1 Minute Warning by Passengers, which was a collaboration between both U2, yes, that U2, and Brian Eno. So I didn't know that. I've never even heard it. So I guess that the only way to actually get that is to have seen the English version in theaters back then. I don't know. Anyway, that was something I learned in the course of researching some of this stuff. One
really
thing we
weird.
definitely have to talk about is the voice acting, though. So the Japanese voice actors, and I actually watched this for the very first time in Japanese when I rewatched it for our review here. I've always watched Ghost in the Shell with English voice actors, but I thought, man, this might be a chance to finally sit down and watch this in Japanese and see what it's like. I think it's good, but having watched all of Ghost in the Shell since in English, I found it very, very difficult to see these people as the characters that I love. But it is also worth mentioning that I think with one exception, that being the character of Aramaki, all of the original Japanese voice actors have portrayed these characters in every single iteration of Ghost in the Shell since the original movie.
Well, no. So, yes and no. There's one extra person that you're forgetting, and that is the Major herself, right? So, the Major originally is voice acted, at least in English, by Mimi Woods. If we're talking about the Japanese cast, then yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I hadn't gotten to the dub yet. But yeah, I was specifically saying the Japanese cast.
Oh yeah. So with the Japanese cast, every single one of them is still there except Aramaki. Aramaki?
Yeah, Aramaki. His voice actor, or his original voice actor, died in 2017. And so they had
I call him the Chief. I don't call him nothing but the Chief.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much, yeah. And they have a new person voicing him in 2045, which came out in 2020. Yeah, they've all stayed the same since. And Maya Sakamoto, bless her heart, is still the Major after all these years.
I love her as the Major though. Like, so to me, it wasn't weird watching it in Japanese, because one thing that Ghost in the Shell's English dub does pretty fucking decently is find voice actors that kind of sound similar to the Japanese ones. Like, they have a good counterpart that kind of has the same vocal ranges. I watched it in English, and then I swapped it to Japanese because I was like, oh my god, I can't stand Mimi Woods as the Major. Like, and you know, bless her heart, Mimi Woods doesn't do a bad job, but
she's not Mary Elizabeth McGlynn.
She's not Mary Elizabeth McGlynn. Oh my god, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn is the Major to me. Mimi Woods, I'm so sorry. You did a great job, but I like Mary Elizabeth McGlynn more. And also, there's just little things inside of the movie, watching it with Mimi Woods voice acting the Major, that kind of just turned me off. Like, the character of Major Motoko, God, even I keep fucking it up, and I know that. Motoko Kusanagi, she's supposed to be some, like, she's the cool girl, right? She's
always cool, calm, cool, and collected.
Calm, cool, collected, but also she has a devil-may-care attitude. But Mimi Woods kind of portrays her as, like, a little bit, like, snarky, or not a little bit snarky, a little bit too much playful, right? Like, she's not caring enough. not caring enough. I don't know how to phrase this properly.
You know how I relate it? I relate it to how Robert Downey Jr. portrays Iron Man. It's done in a similar vein where it's like it's almost sarcastic the way the character is being played.
Yes, like that's kind of my problem, and it's not like she does it the entire time. She just has little flavor text here and there where I'm just like, it kind of detracted from my experience of what the cool person, like the Major that I grew up thinking about, because again, Mary Elizabeth McGlynn was the Major I grew up with. Unfortunately to say, I did not see the movies first.
To be fair, I think Mary Elizabeth McGlynn knocks it out of the park with the Major. Like, in my opinion, like she's had other roles in anime, of course, but like if you're talking about her voice acting resume with anime, I don't think she's played any character as good as she does the Major.
Yeah, and Mimi Woods originally voiced in the movie for the Major in 1995, and also the first game on PlayStation 1 in 1997.
God.
I remember I added that because...
That's so long ago.
I know, 90s. Because I was like, wait, Ghost in the Shell had a video game on PS1? What? I didn't know that.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to find that out. I mean, I guess the surprising thing is a theatrical flop gets a video game.
Well, mainly because it might have been a theatrical flop worldwide, but it probably did well domestically, right?
It might have.
Otherwise, why would they make a video game?
Yeah, true. But yeah, I mean, I think in general the voice acting is pretty good. Whether you're watching Japanese or the English dub, I mean, yeah, I know Mimi Woods isn't everyone's first choice for the Major. I get it. But I still don't think it's bad. Like even you said, you don't think it's necessarily bad. It's just it's not what you want out of the Major.
Yeah, and again, it's flavor text, right? There's little add-ons that Mimi Woods that I'm not sure if she ad-libbed or someone wrote this into the script, but it gave a different perception of the Major for me. Like she seemed a little bit more sarcastic and Iron Man-like than just a cool Major that I'm used to. Like she's just a badass chick.
Yeah.
Like which also like is I guess we would talk about this in the... Should we talk about that narrative quality?
I mean, I was going to go ahead and lead into it, so if you want to go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, well, before that, I just wanted to say the Japanese dub and the English dub are still fucking excellent. I would say that Ghost in the Shell's English dub is a very strong contender for something that, you know, as the sub-purist I am, and I love Japanese dubs a lot more than I like English, my God, does Ghost in the Shell do it right. Like, Richard Epcar?
Yeah, as Bato.
As Bato? Fucking my favorite Bato. And I'm so glad he still reprises his role to this day.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean...
He's such a good... I love Bato so much.
I mean, and tell me if you think this is right as well. Like, I think that the English dub for Ghost in the Shell, whether you're talking about the original, 95 movie dub or with the newer cast from Standalone Complex and Forward, like I think it's definitely a contender for one of those types of anime out there where the English dub is at the very least on par with the Japanese dub.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's superior because I do like the Japanese voice actors a lot as well. Mm-hmm. However, I love the English dub of Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
It like so much so, especially with the Standalone Complex cast, that after this recording, I'm gonna go to Best Buy and go buy that 4K remaster because Alex tells me that the 4K remaster has a redub with the new Standalone Complex dubbing.
That's what I have been told.
I am gonna go and buy it so I can own it and then listen to it and rewatch it again.
I'm hoping for your sake and mine that was not a theatrical only thing.
Oh God, if it was, I'd be so upset. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, let me talk about how I love the Major and how she's not just a damsel in distress that relies on men, right?
If anything, the opening scene demonstrates that effectively.
Yeah, so Motoko Kusanagi, the Major, she is a badass chick, right? She is strong, she's independent, she don't need no man, and she's probably what inspired a lot of people's, like, big-titted muscle girl mommy, like, fetishes. I swear to God. Like, there's that scene, right, where she's prying open the thing, and she's just flexing all those muscles, and she's so fucking yoked. Mm-hmm. You're just like, yo, what the fuck? What is this?
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's definitely, I mean, it's probably the start of a lot of people's muscle mommy fetish.
Alex doesn't appreciate being called out like this, I see.
Yeah. John, we're just trying to review Ghost in the Shell. Why you gotta call me out like this?
Listen, it was because I forgot how much there's a lot of nudity in this movie, right? But it's not like ecchi nudity. It's kind of just a part of Major's design. Like she walks around nude all the time, and she doesn't really give a fuck.
No. But something I did want to point out. So you mentioned that she's a badass, and like there's been in Hollywood movies over the last like 5 to 6 years, there's been this onslaught of the what's kind of been termed a cliche, like the strong female character archetype. And yeah. I want to say that something like Ghost in the Shell does this idea right, because there's a point, it's near the midway point of the movie where, and not to spoil anything, but like there's a scene where the Major is genuinely showing vulnerability towards Bato, right? And it's like, yeah, she's a strong character. Yeah, she's very independent. She's very quick-witted and forward-thinking, but she's also not afraid to be vulnerable in certain situations. That's what I appreciate about it.
I'd argue that the Major is written as a man, that's why, but we're not going to go into that. I just really like Major and how she's a cool badass like government agent.
But no, so I mentioned it before, like, so this story is set in 2029, which still baffles my mind. I had completely forgotten how, like, we're almost to the point where this was set. I mean, hell, we're already past the point where Blade Runner is supposed to be set. And like you say, the plot mainly revolves around a government security agency that is trying to track down a notorious hacker. And the story kind of just goes through that whole line. There's a few parts of the movie where, like I said, there's some more quiet parts between characters, a lot of dialogue between them, and I think in those moments, especially like there's a couple of scenes where Bato and the Major are essentially just talking philosophy with each other. I love those scenes so much. Like, it's so much character building.
Well, so the movie pacing it's whack, right? Like you said, it does not feel like it's only 80 something minutes.
82 total minutes.
Yeah, 80. It does not feel like an hour and 20 minutes, but the very beginning of the movie is pretty slow in my opinion. Like the first 25 minutes, it kind of drags. But it's because there's a lot more like there's a lot of nuance to this movie. There's a lot of ideologies being tossed about and a lot of just like, am I human or not, right? Because in the opening sequence you see that the Major, like one of the biggest like, whoa, that's so cool, is when they create Major's body. Like that entire sequence at the very beginning is the Major being a cybernetic. She's fully cybernetic, right? In this world where I say this world, it's in our world, I guess, technically speaking. We have humans who have advanced with technology, and people get cybernetics and augmented. They're all kind of androids.
Yeah.
But the Major is the first. I believe she is the first. I
don't remember if she's the first. I know she's definitely one of the first. I'm not sure if she was the first, but like everything about her body is cyberized except for her brain.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has a cybernetic brain, but the memories implanted into her cybernetic brain are from a real brain, supposedly.
Allegedly.
And yeah, because that's one of the biggest themes about this movie, right? That Major is kind of having an identity crisis because she doesn't care about her body. She doesn't really see herself as human, which is why she's going around naked all the time, and that's why we see anime titties everywhere. Like in the first fucking 5 seconds of the movie, you see anime titties, and then you see anime titties again, and then you see more anime titties. And again, they're not used sexually. It's just an expression of like, she cares so little about her own body. She doesn't even recognize that she's human, right? That's why she doesn't care about being nude. Versus Bato, who has cybernetic enhancements, like he has cyber eyes and augmented brain, and
he's also got like muscular implants as well.
Yeah, but Bato shows like he sees whenever Major is naked, he averts his eyes and he'll cover her up and stuff, and he shows, but they never acknowledge it because it's like a nuanced thing. Like the Major, it just shows she doesn't care that she's naked because she doesn't see her cybernetic body as womanly. She just sees it as a body that she operates in, right? It's her shell.
And she also realizes that like in the event that something happens to this body, she can very easily be transferred to another one.
That self-identity thing is a main keystone key point.
It's certainly one of the key factors that the story revolves around, because like I said, the Major and Bato have that conversation at the midway point, and one of the things that comes up is like she's wondering how much of me is still me. Like I've been told, I believe that I have these memories that came from a real person, but am I still that person because this entire body has been cyberized?
Yeah, and it's a very good point. In fact, it's like I think it's Theseus's boat, the one where you replace every plank on the boat.
The ship of Theseus, where a boat goes out, and then during its voyage, like every single part of the boat is replaced, and then when it comes back to port, is it still the same boat?
Yeah, and it's a really crazy ideology to think about, because it's something that we wouldn't normally think about, because it's like we're so far away from being completely cyberized. But in the future, like if we do have cyber augments and stuff, like even what's that fucking video game, Deus Ex Mach. Yeah, Deus Ex. With is it Humankind? Is that the one? What's the one with the guy Adam
Jensen? What was the first one?
Human Revolution.
Human Revolution and Mankind Divided are the two Deus Ex games with him as the main character.
Mankind Divided was the second one. So Human Evolution, it's one of the main themes of that, and like 100% Deus Ex Human Revolution was inspired by Ghost in the Shell and this very thing, where it's like we're advancing so far into the future that everyone's getting cyber augments, and just like, oh, you can look 20 times further and faster, you can get brain implants so you can do quick math, you can get cyber enhancements for your like arms, legs, whatever you want. You can become a machine and perform how you want to perform, but at what point do you stop being you, right? And that's one of the main themes of this movie, because we see like the main antagonist of the movie, and what he does, he's called the Puppet Master, and what he does to humans, like he can fuck with your memories, that if you have like cyber enhancements like with in your brain and stuff, he can implant fake memories into you.
Yeah, he can literally hack into your brain, implant an entire fake life into your brain.
Yeah. And it's so crazy to think about.
It's like there's a scene where they're actually questioning someone who he did that to, and he implanted an entire life's worth of memories in this guy's brain, and it never actually happened. Like, he implanted the idea that he had like a wife and kids, and they're showing him pictures of, him by himself, and he's saying that he sees his wife and kids in these pictures.
Yeah, and at first, this movie seems very, I wouldn't say highbrow, but you got to think a little bit about the movie.
It's a very cerebral movie. It really is.
And into the running with movies that you like, it's a smart movie for all intents and purposes. Like, you can't go in and just turn off your brain and watch it and have a good time. Like, the main enjoyment for me of Ghost in the Shell isn't just the cool aesthetics and the cyberpunk like future, but it's also the storyline and the debating of ideologies and ethics and stuff like that, morals and stuff. Like, that's an entire running thing about Ghost in the Shell. Yeah. It's not just this movie. It's literally standalone complex, second gig.
Even 2045 talks on this.
Yeah, 2045 does talk about this with the New Humans, yes, and it's because it's weird, right? Like if you've ever seen Appleseed.
Oh yes, and that may be something we eventually review as well.
Yeah, I might pick that next just to run with the theme. But in Appleseed, that's one of the main topics too, where they have a society where they created androids, but they're androids. They're not human at all. They're synthetics. However, they act human. There are some people who fall in love with androids, right? And at what point do we start considering robots and artificial intelligence real? Like, do we ever consider them real?
Yeah, and at the time this was made, it seemed like a far-off thing, but as technology that we have now keeps advancing further and further, I can see this within my lifetime becoming a question that we need to answer.
I mean, I'm all for robots having rights. Like,
yeah, I'm all for the robot waifu revolution.
I am all for that, man. Listen, you can get Ricardo. He's a 45-speed dildo fuck machine, all right? Who would be against this? Who in their right mind would be like, no, they don't deserve to. They're not alive. They weren't created with penises and vaginas. Like, no, fuck you. They're alive to me as like my virtual waifus are. Oh, very sad.
Yeah,
very sad to say that.
But it's yeah. But yeah, it's something that I like to think about as well. Like, because like I said, I feel like sometime within my lifetime, certainly within the next 50 to 60 years, I can see our artificial intelligence and robotics in general becoming so advanced that maybe we do have things like androids and partially cyberized bodies. And like, I think these questions that Ghost in the Shell brings up are going to be questions that humanity is going to have to answer at some point. And like, just because we can do these things, should we?
For a movie that was only 80 minutes, it's inspired a lot of deep thinking.
It has. It's also inspired a lot of other filmmakers. Probably most notably and most vocally were the Wachowskis, who made the Matrix trilogy. And one of them, because one of them is dead now, is making the fourth Matrix movie currently, which comes out next month. Or no, not by the time this comes out, it will be out. So yeah, go see it, I guess. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but it's got Keanu Reeves in it.
I don't know why they're making another one.
Money.
Anyway, yeah, I know. I actually know why, but I don't know why, other than money. But yeah, obviously, it's because they just want money.
And I think that's a great place to leave off with this, is like the legacy of Ghost in the Shell. I said near the beginning of this review that I genuinely consider it to be one of anime's 5 great masterpieces. I still believe that after rewatching this. I still give it a 10 out of 10. Is it 100% perfect? No, I think there's some nitpicking I could definitely do with this film. Overall, though, I think given how good it still looks, the fact that it's still making me think when I watch it, and the fact that it's had a legacy that has inspired so many other people throughout the 25 years since it's come out. I think for that reason alone, it's 100% a masterpiece, and it's why I give it a 10 out of 10.
So, I have a lot of issues with Ghost in the Shell. I am the king of bitching and nitpicking. Like, man,
I don't know. Show could give you a decent run in that department, I think.
Well, that's why me and Show get along so well, because I can critically analyze anything and find faults with it. However, I did rate this a 10 out of 10 because it's just, you're right, it's the legacy that it's left behind. Like, it's the impact that it's made. Like, definitely, I love the ideologies that it always debates. There's always something philosophical about it. Mm-hmm. It's not just cut and dry. It's not just black and white, right? And that's what's cool about the series, is it explores so many different facets of, like, there's different people with different opinions and how things are going to be, how do we view things, and it makes you think, man. It's provocative, right? Like,
it really does.
I hate saying that. I really fucking hate saying that. Like, oh, it's a provocative film, but
makes you feel pretentious, doesn't it?
It does. I don't want to. I'm not a movie snob, right? I say you like what you like, and you say on a numerical score you like it how much you liked it, right? Like, fuck, 10 out of 10 doesn't mean it's perfect for everyone. It just means I enjoyed it that much. But that being said, I definitely agree with you. I think it's one of the pillar anime movies you need to fucking watch. Like, if you've never seen, like, Akira, you've never seen Ghost in the Shell, like, you're not a true anime fan.
And for those who will inevitably ask what I consider the 5 great anime masterpieces, I know that if I don't say it out loud, someone's gonna ask. It's Ghost in the Shell, Akira, the original Legend of the Galactic Heroes, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and Cowboy Bebop. Those are the 5 great anime masterpieces. Those are the only anime that I would actually genuinely label as masterpieces.
I don't have enough time to dissect all of this because I've got to go to Best Buy before they close and go buy this anime. So, but that's an interesting thing we should debate one day. Oh, I don't know. It's going to be a long fucking podcast episode. Maybe we might do it for the Patreon or something. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, whenever
Secret
that
episode.
happens.
Secret episode.
I mean, we could definitely do that as like one of our episodes we do first of next year or something, maybe. But yeah, so to close this out before I wrap this up, so John, the next movie review we do is going to be chosen by you. What are we going to be reviewing?
Not gonna lie, I'm probably gonna choose Appleseed. I don't think I don't know if you guys have seen all the Appleseed movies, because I wanted to go into the one that kind of links into Ghost in the Shell about like androids and stuff, which is the second movie, I believe. Well, technically, it's the first movie because the second movie, there's a prequel in there. I think. I don't remember. It's been a while. There's
Appleseed is a weird thing, and it's kind of like it's almost like fate at this point. Like, how do I watch Appleseed?
Well, you watch it by whichever one you want, but it involves mechs and cyber bodies, and listen, it's really cool. Okay.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first. Our next movie review will very likely be Appleseed. I have a feeling that I've placed this idea in his head, and he won't let it go now.
Listen, I told you to give me that list of anime movies that we can list out to see what we want to watch, and you didn't give me that list, and then we started talking about Appleseed. So I'm choosing Appleseed.
Okay, well, there you go. It's 100% going to be Appleseed the next time we do a movie review. So that will be our movie review for January of 2022. And with that, I am going to wrap this up here. Thank you all there for dropping in to listen to us. Check the description below to find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. Check out our merch store and our affiliate links as well. Any purchases you make there do really, really help us out. With that, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, John.
Motoko Kusanagi.
I don't know why that's always makes me chuckle, but
I don't remember where I heard someone say Kusanagi. And it just stuck with me forever.
Oh, God.